If you're looking to reduce sway on your Class A coach, then we have a product for you today. We have a 2012 Tiffin Allegro Open Road. We're going to be taking a look at and installing Roadmaster's Rear Anti-Sway Bar kit. It's a supplemental kit. It's actually adding twice the stability in the back of your rig. Now here's what your Roadmaster Rear Anti-Sway Bar is going to look like underneath your rig here at the back axle. Now keep in mind, this is a supplemental sway bar. It's going to work in conjunction with your factory sway bar up here. You're not removing the factory sway bar. You're adding to it. So the differences are kind of striking right here. You can see that your factory sway bar is 1.5 inches in diameter. The Roadmaster is 1.75 inches. That's going to provide a lot more sway control left and right. Also, here at the end links, you'll notice we have polyurethane bushings top and bottom. This is a really heavy duty end link with plenty of adjustments for different setups back here. Now, as far as installing this sway bar, I'll just let you know up front, this is a difficult job. Everything's heavy. This bar is heavy. These plates that attach are heavy. One of the things I do like is that we didn't have to drill into the frame. We did use existing attachment points up high and then down low here. But the problem with this is that this is going to require to torque these down a very large torque wrench. Depending on your application and on the installation instructions in your manual, it could exceed 250 to 300 foot-pounds. Not everybody has a torque wrench that big laying around. So other than that, though, it is straightforward. And it's a good system. It's nice and heavy. It's going to provide a lot of additional support. We're going to go take this out on our test course, and we can actually see what kind of a difference it makes driving around. So we're out here on the test course right now, and honestly, this is where your anti-sways are going to make the biggest impact, or where you can actually feel it is going over, say, speed bumps or at a campground with a rougher road. Also, when you're out on the highways, if you're going to have some crosswinds or if a semi passes you, you're going to have some movement out of the bus, just like this. And, these work in harmony with the suspension system, the springs, the shocks, and these are components that just gradually start to get weaker over time. And so you don't notice it right away if you need a replacement or additional sway links and sway bars. But these are things that the ride quality over time is going to diminish, and you're going to have more movement. The whole idea of RVing is supposed to be comfortable and relaxed, and when your suspension components start to get worn, you start to get more movement. You're going to have to make more corrections on the wheel. Your neck could get sore from bobbing back and forth. I know this. I drove over the road for 21 years. And it's the little things like this that are going to make your ride more enjoyable. We're just going to get some sway. And there's quite a bit. This is an older unit, a very nice unit. But again, these components need to be updated. And now that we've gone over our test course, let's go ahead and get this in the shop, and we'll do our suspension upgrades, and we'll see what kind of a difference it makes. So we're back here on our test course with the sway bar installed, and the course is kind of designed, we have some offset speed bumps that will make the rig go back and forth. We can't simulate, of course, wind, crosswinds and everything else, but this is something that the sway bars are actually going to help with out on the road. These things aren't going to take all of the sway out of your rig. There's a fine line between a sloppy swaying side to side and a more controlled sway. And that's what we're kind of looking for, is more of a controlled sway in these things. You're going to have crosswinds that are going to be pushing your rig over, but if you've got extra sway bar support, it's going to lean over and it's going to be controlled. And that's what we're looking for here. Usually when you're driving down the road and you're getting hard left and right crosswinds, or if a semi passes you, stuff like that, that changes the geometry in your steering. And so you'll be steering and trying to fight that. You'll be going back and forth. So anything you can do to upgrade your chassis on these Class A coaches is really, really going to help. So as we're going over these bumps, of course, this is simulating either, some bad potholes or the parking lot or some of these KOA locations where you're going to be camping and parking for the night. And sometimes the roads aren't the best. And what we have is just a more controlled feel on this. If you're upgrading your chassis and you've already done like suspension upgrades as far as maybe some timbrins or airbags, assists, or new shocks and stuff like that, the anti-sway bars are just going to complement what you've already upgraded. So final thoughts on the Roadmaster sway bar upgrade. Look, I think these are essential upgrades to your coach. You've seen the befores and afters, and I can tell you from experience that these are going to make a big difference for you out on the road. If you think you'd like to install them yourself, we're going to go ahead and pull this inside. We can take a closer look at them underneath, and I'll show you how we installed them. Okay, so we're under the RV here. We are at the back of the axle. Now, remember, this sway link kit is not going to replace the factory sway link kit. It's actually going to help it out as well. And so we're going to be installing it on the back side of this axle back here. And our first step is going to be to remove 2 bolts on the cross member on each side so that we can install our upper sway link brackets. Here's the cross member I was talking about. The bolts are going to be in this location, but we're going to unbolt it from the outside of the frame here. Now, in the instructions, it does say that if you're having trouble getting the bolts out and they keep contacting the leaf spring, you can go ahead and raise the RV up. If you have hydraulic jacks, that would be one means that you could get it up there. If you have electric jacks, of course, you don't want your tires to leave the ground, but you may try using your electric jacks just to get you enough clearance. We are going to try to do it without lifting it up just to see if it's possible. So I've got a couple of wrenches here. I've got a 21 millimeter. This is a 13/16 bolt. But so I've got 2 wrenches here, and we're just going to see if we can't get these out without lifting the RV up. So these were in pretty tight, but I'm going to go ahead and run these out, and hopefully they're going to clear the leaf spring. That's good news for that one. Driver's side was definitely, we had more room than the passenger side. This is the upper sway link bracket. There are 2 in your kit, and it doesn't matter which side, which part goes to which side. These are the same for both sides. As long as this is going to get installed like this, this is on the outside of the frame here. So when we put this up here, reuse your existing hardware. And we may have to get creative. To get the bolts in to clear. So you saw what I did. I kind of had to angle it, the bracket, be able to slide both those bolts in. Then we'll use the existing flange nuts here. And when you put this up, you can't really spin the flange nuts that much. You'll have to spin the bolt head. So once you get these installed, and the process is the same on both sides here, you will torque these to the specs that are found in the installation manual. So I will say that any time that we save by not lifting the RV up, when it comes to torquing these down, we kind of ended up needing special tools just to be able to do this. So I think you're better off, if you can, to raise your RV up so that you can clear it and get just a normal setting for your torque wrench in here to torque these down. We're going to be installing the sway bar bracket. Now you have one of these per side, and they mount right here on these U-bolts. These are going to be very difficult to get off, so soak them in penetrating oil like we did, and we're going to zip these down. This plate will actually sit on top So it'll be that the sway bracket, and then this plate, and then this goes back up. So using an 1 1/8" socket. I'm going to do just a little bit at a time. These parts are pretty heavy, so when you're doing this, try to make sure your U-joints, they sit in cradles above on this axle, and they could get out of alignment. So before you go and tighten everything up, you'll want to double check that everything's okay up there. Just get a couple of these up here right now to hold this in place. This is the upper cradle up here on the spring that I'm talking about. You want to make sure that your springs are in alignment right there on the front and the back. And then go ahead and snug these U-bolts up. Just do a little bit at a time. Ideally, you would like to see the same amount of threads coming out on each U-bolt. So we'll see how it ends up once we get these snugged up. With the driver's side plate installed, go ahead and repeat this same process on the passenger side. We're going to torque our U-bolts. You can find the torque setting in the instruction manual. It's a very high torque setting. You're going to need a big torque wrench to be able to do this. Just go ahead and repeat that for all the ones on the driver and the passenger side. Now these are the end links that you're going to get with your kit for the sway bar. These are not side specific, so you'll have 2 of these and they can go on either side of your RV. You can see we have a different set of holes here for adjustments later on when we're setting up the sway link. Also, we have adjustments up here on the top bracket for the sway link. I'm going to start at the upper hole, and we'll take the supplied hardware and just loosely put the nut on right now, and we'll go ahead and do this on the other side as well. Next, we'll take our sway bar and we're going to just loosely mount it up on our links right now. And with the adjustments again, I'm just going to start in the middle hole. Okay. And we'll put a nylock nut on each side here just to hold it. Now we can take our saddle bushings. You've got the hard metal collar on the outside and then the bushing itself. It's split, and we will be packing grease in here when we go to install them, but I like to dry fit these first. And the reason that we have so many adjustments up here and here with the sway links, we want our sway bar to be as parallel with the ground as possible. We don't want it pointing up or we don't want it pointing down. You end up losing the effectiveness of the anti-sway properties on this bar. So we know it's going to mount up right here, and with the bolts in the top position up here, in the middle position here, I have a slight uphill. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the sway links down to the bottom bars here, and that looks like that's going to have us parallel with the road. So with dropping it down to the bottom hole here and the upper hole on the top, that does look like it's parallel with the frame and the road, and that's what we're looking for. Your situation might be a little bit different, but you get the idea. You want it to be parallel with the frame and the road. So now we can take our bushings, and you're going to get 2 of these in the kit. Again, this doesn't matter what side of the sway bar they go on. They do include a grease that you can apply either with a brush, or if you have gloves, you can use your finger. This stuff is almost like cake frosting, so it's really, really stringy. But you'll just go along the inside of the bushing here. This is going to lubricate, but mostly it's just to avoid squeaks. And it doesn't matter which way you put this on. Just go ahead and split that. And the cage itself can go on. Sometimes these fall off though, but it looks like we're pretty good. And go ahead and do that for the other side as well. We're going to take the supplied hardware. We've got a washer, and then a nylock, and another washer. Now, these washers are going to get installed up on these top plates here. We'll swing. Sway bar into position. So you've got the cap screw washer, and then on the bottom you'll have another washer, and then a nylock nut. So I'm just going to install this one here to hold this bar up here. And I just go ahead and install the other one on this, and then the other 2 on the other side. We'll tighten up our saddle mounts here first. These are 19 millimeter with the new hardware. Both top and the bottom here. Now that we've got our saddle bushings snugged up, you can always check and make sure that it's centered, but honestly, these are gonna almost self-center. You don't have much room to play with on either side, but we're gonna go and snug the end link bolts, both top and bottom, on both sides, and then we're going to torque them to the specs located in the installation manual. These fasteners are 1 inch. And that was a look at Roadmaster's Rear Anti-Sway Bar Kit on our 2012 Tiffin Allegro Open Road.